everybody. Welcome back to the Live Room Podcast, a show where everything's made up and the points don't matter. Does anybody know what that's from?
Schmitty.
Yes, of course.
What?
Whose line is it anyway?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking of Quiplash.
The Drew Carey Show?
Shameful.
The Drew Carey game show.
The trick. Yeah, that's right.
That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
Was that huge in America?
Yeah, it was
huge.
It was fantastic. It was huge.
It was huge.
As in Whose Line or the Drew Carey Show?
What line? Whose line? No, it was Whose Line. Yeah, Whose Line was huge. Yep.
I like the Drew.
What was that
Carey
sentence?
I don't.
What line? Whose line? What? Yep. Whose
Yeah,
line?
Whose line is it? Whose line is it anyway? All
I
right.
don't know. Whose is it? But
I know you watch Vines on YouTube.
I love
Eric.
Vines. Do you love Vines? Jared, you're the only person I've talked to about Vines yet.
I don't mind a good Vine. You know those compilations, the Vines that keep me from ending it all? I really like those ones.
Yes, finally.
Like 2 a.m. when you think about ending it all and you just watch it and you're better.
Yep, those are the Vines that I watch daily. Daily.
They're pretty great.
Daily.
I'm still more of a Whose Line is it anyway montage, you know?
I
Just
love
the best
I would
clips.
probably prefer that. It's a
Yeah.
little bit. It lasts a bit longer, so the joy is longer lasting.
See, vines are something different for me. I like that's my nickname for vinyls. Yeah, I just picked up a sick vine.
Well, anyway,
I dig it.
it's another fantastic day for the program. We've hit double digits.
Double digits.
Double
Happy
digits,
birthday, fellas.
boys.
Double
Good stuff.
digits.
We're 10 episodes old today.
It's a milestone.
Yeah, it's a milestone, and this is Jared. So,
Hi, Jared.
Hello.
We thought we'd celebrate with a guest,
I guess
as per usual.
Jared is our other producer, engineer, session musician here at Live Studios. Friendly face, familiar face to everybody here, and we're just gonna roll with it. Rock and roll with it. Am I right?
Rock and or roll.
We may be
100%.
rocking and rolling.
As Reverend Lovejoy once said. Rock and or roll.
But, all right.
Have you not seen The Simpsons?
I don't watch
Was
The
that
Simpsons.
big in America?
Yeah, it's surprisingly, actually, it's not as big as it is here, I think.
It's gigantic here, man. It's like you have
pretty
tea at
gigantic.
6 o'clock and you have tea while you're watching The Simpsons at the dining
I
table.
wasn't allowed to watch Simpsons growing up. You have no idea how
Wow.
much of an outcast I was at school because of it.
That's special. That's special.
Yeah.
That's like the first thing you would talk about at school every morning. Hey man, did you watch The Simpsons
Oh,
last
Exactly.
night?
I'm very well aware.
Yeah.
And then after that was, what did you have for dinner whilst you were watching The Simpsons
Yes.
last night? I had cheese and chicken schnitzels.
It was the elephant episode.
Always the elephant.
It's always the elephant episode.
Oh, boy.
Goodness gracious.
Well, fantastic day to be alive today, folks. You know why? Because we're here again. It's a Podcast Wednesday. As we like
Podcast
to call it.
Wednesday.
And we are day 3 into Rifttober right now.
We are.
Riftober. It's off with a bang. Hell yeah.
So tell us about Rifttober for those who aren't initiated.
Riftober is a challenge we initiated last week on the podcast.
Yeah, mate.
Last installment of the podcast.
Episode
I should
9.
say.
Whenever that was.
Episode 9, whenever that was. Yeah, more or less, October kicked off, and we have to upload a video onto Instagram each day of a new guitar riff.
Woo.
It can be a cover. It can more or less be anything. Acoustic, electric, you name it. And yeah, the idea is we just have to go throughout the entire month of Rifttober and yeah, just get the goodness out there.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's challenging.
It's challenging.
We're 2 days in. I haven't done my third day yet. So
I did
gotta
my
do it
third
tonight.
day just before everybody got here.
Ah,
Jared walked in the door and I was hitting export on Final Cut
cool.
because I'm filming them, I'm recording them here, and it's good because it just forces me to play, and I just don't play enough. So it's a good initiative.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Builds a bit of momentum
Yeah.
with getting projects done, putting content online.
yeah,
It's great. It's awesome.
yeah. You should be doing that as well. That's, you know,
Jump on board.
I know personally that you have some sick riffs.
I have some okay riffs.
I'd say they're pretty sick.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate
You're
that.
welcome. No worries.
Maybe I'll keep them to myself so I don't steal them.
Oh, yeah, maybe. That's probably a good idea.
Maybe I'll do Riftober.
Yeah,
maybe.
maybe you should.
Next year.
Sean Orr's been doing Rifttober.
Yeah.
He's on board.
He's on board.
He's on-
making some killer stuff.
Board with the capital Ord.
Bored.
Wow.
Yeah, I did my third one today.
Yeah.
Today was Rush Day again. First day
Rush
was
Day
Rush Day.
again.
Third day is now Rush Day. But I brought out the.
Isn't it for you? It's just Rushtober.
It's
Is that-
it's basically Rushtober.
Rushtober.
But I brought out the Rickenbacker for today's episode.
Ah, some more of a bass rendition.
Yes.
Mm.
So I'll do guitar, bass, and drums. Just keep
Cool.
it fun, keep it fresh.
Bought a set of guitar strings straight after work today. So
Nice.
I'm gonna have some drop C riffs for you guys.
Ooh. Make sure you pick it up.
Brace yourself. Brace yourself.
It's gonna
I haven't
get
played
heavy.
drop C in a long time. I'm like, why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Heavier drop D, mate. Heavier drop D. That's all it is.
So, Jared, tell us about yourself. You're the guest here. Obviously, not a lot of people know who you are. We know who you are, but what do you do? So, you're a fantastic musician. We're going to talk about music production, which you do a lot of, supposedly, and you have your own band and music, right?
Allegedly.
Yeah,
Yes,
allegedly.
allegedly.
Yeah. So, tell us about that. Tell us,
Nothing's confirmed.
tell us about that.
Tell us about that. Well, I play music. I play a bunch of instruments, mainly drums and guitar and vocals, a bit of keys and violin thrown in. And I do IT 4 days a week and then work here when I'm not there.
Yep.
And,
Me too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess that's that. I got a little home studio. I have my own band, Kingsdom. And yeah, when I'm not at work or at this work, so I'm usually at home working on Kingsdom stuff or playing
Yeah.
Rocket League, one of the two, or playing with my dog.
Yes.
one of the three then. But
Is your dog good
yeah.
at Rocket League?
My dog is great at Rocket
Yeah.
League. Yeah,
Yeah.
like really good.
What kind of controller does
What
your
kind
dog
of
use?
my dog use?
Yeah.
A Mad
yeah,
Cat's.
It's the Raju.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
With the paddles on the back, helps with her paws.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she doesn't have the thumbs for it.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't have
Yeah.
opposable thumbs.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
You could always try VR and just let her like go crazy, run around the place.
Dude, I just put a VR headset on my dog. It went crazy.
Oh man, I'm picturing her like flying off the ceiling in Rocket League,
Trying to get the ball.
just seeing everything approach upside down.
360 no scopes.
Yes.
Dogs would freak out if they played like, say, like a horror game. Number one, because wow, I'm in a human body. Like they're having
got
a
nothing
human
to do with the
experience as a
content.
dog.
That's a good point.
It's funny you say that. I saw a video a while ago. It was of a golden retriever with a VR headset, and it was like in roller coaster simulation. It was just sitting there. It was just literally sitting there on the couch, like, and like while it's going all these tosses and turns, it's like,
Satiated, happy, on top of the world.
so yeah.
Wow, it handles. Like,
yeah, it didn't
everything.
do anything. Didn't do
Yeah.
anything.
Didn't vomit up immediately like most humans do after a VR experience.
No.
I gotta wonder, like, do their brains function the same way? Do they experience?
Oh, they're
those
way
things?
smarter than us.
I mean, well, yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah,
Yeah.
Me
Maybe
at
we're,
least.
we're the stupid ones because we're the ones vomiting and stuff on the VR.
Yeah,
on
they
the
can
VR
control
roller
it. They're on
coasters.
another level, you know.
Yeah, they vomit anyway and then eat it. Like, there's no problem with that. No.
It
What
is
goes back-
disgusting.
what goes around comes around.
Animals are disgusting. I still have my cat Socks, who's 7 years old now. When I got him, there was a centipede crawling on the floor, and he was just like, "I'll eat that," and didn't
Nom, nom.
question it at all.
Centipedes,
Immediately went to like
the most
"Oh,
metal of insects.
Friskies, but it has legs. I mean, I don't know.
Did it slurp it like Lady in the Tramp style?
No, it was like
That's unpleasant.
One
Like
leg
my
at a time.
CC's ASMR, like Doritos chip one last week.
Wow.
yeah. G'day guys. Today we're gonna eat some Doritos.
Ah, my trigger, the corn chip. Do they call it triggers or something?
Yeah.
ASMR triggers.
Oh, no.
I don't know.
Well, I think they would call it triggers because that's what triggers you, but not in like the like social justice, like
Yeah.
no, you said that word and it hurt me kind of way.
You can't use that word. That's our word.
Anyway, we've got a fantastic
It's a very
episode
left-wing
planned.
podcast.
Yes, pretty. What? Very left wing?
Yeah, very, very left wing.
Oh, we're very progressive here.
Notice all the man spreading on this.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that girl to come pour bleach on us.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about music production today. Something that is happening right now. 4 guys in front of microphones recording into Pro Tools.
That's nice of you to consider us music.
Great example.
I don't even know what's going on.
So generally, that's what happens when you try to, structure a podcast, I guess.
I don't know. Look,
Things don't go to plan, man.
No, they don't. I mean, like especially last episode. That was just.
too
That
funny.
was.
It was
that
a loose podcast.
That was ridiculous.
It was
Bit
great.
of a dumpster fire.
Dare I
It
say
was.
the word?
It was more than a dumpster fire.
Oh, okay.
I said some things that I thought would have been cut out, but it's not. It's nobody's fault. It's just like I just. I was watching it.
Whatever.
Back. I was watching it back, and I was like, "Oh."
Oh,
Yeah.
I probably should have just kind of gated that because there's people that I know that
It's all, yeah. I mean, yes, it is a very inappropriate word, I guess. But
Yeah,
it
thunder.
was in the context of like stoner doom bands. So like,
It's like-
I thought it was in a bit of a grey area and we could let it slide.
Speaking of stoner doom bands, Jackson,
Oh,
great
right.
segue. So music production,
segue.
we've recently been working on an album for a stoner doom band called Sleeping Giant, who we had Stephen Hammer. He's part of that band. We had him on recently.
Is part of the show.
Let's talk about your experience working here doing that. Like, you've worked in home studios with your brother before, and I, had my eye on you, and I brought you to come in. I don't even know what I'm talking English. Does that make sense?
Do you want me to just take over
Just
here?
take it, please.
Yeah, cool. All right.
do you understand the question?
Tell us about audio production.
I have enjoyed my time recording them. Does that answer your question?
In as much detail as you can, that answers the
In
question.
as much
Yeah.
detail. I mean, don't be vague. I mean, come on.
No, I mean, it was good. It was my first session here, so it was interesting coming in and just kind of learning we did a test session for like an hour,
Yeah.
the Tuesday prior, but other than that, I hadn't really run with your setup. You just kind of showed me around and we played, but I know Pro Tools, so it was pretty easy once we got the ball rolling. So
Yeah.
no, it was good. Like it was fun just getting some drum sounds. That kit sounds really nice.
Yes,
It's
it
a nice
does.
kit.
So
Very nice. kit.
Nice.
so that was good. It was good hanging out with the guys. It's been such a long time since I recorded a band, so it was just nice hanging out with them all and seeing the X's go up on the whiteboard as we knocked off song after song. So it was good, and it's refreshing for me because mostly I just record my own stuff at home, just demo wise, until it's ready to actually be tracked properly. So it was nice to have a bit of a different style, doing the doom stoner stuff because I like that stuff. I like those that heavier guitar sound, the chorusy effects and the wahs and that sort of thing. But I just never play with them for my stuff because it's just not what I write in. So it's refreshing to be able to kind of record it and sit there and edit it and not edit it, but that's never refreshing.
We're
ever.
still just finishing the editing phase.
Yes. But the mixing phase has been really fun
Yes.
going through and just tweaking the sounds a little bit.
There are so many different variables when it comes to mixing music. It depends on really what you're doing, how much time you want to put into something like that. Like we spent 2 hours last night tweaking the kick drum.
And the snare. We got the snare
And we
too.
got the snare.
Snare top, not snare bottom.
Yeah. But like there's a certain sense of perfection that you have that I keep touching your leg.
It's fun.
That you have that I really appreciate. Just roll with it. But it's fantastic. His level of detail is really good, and I've learned that especially with the editing drums. Get the thumb going.
You always got to get the thumb growing with the.
Just to jump in there, we've thrown a couple keywords around.
Yes.
Editing, mixing, mastering. Just for the viewers at home, like I know we generally understand what's going on here, but a lot of the people listening in, they don't know anything about music production. So just
I'm
break
one of
down
those
for me,
people.
what is editing and what is mixing and which one is ideal to do first?
Sure. Well, once you've actually recorded everything, you want to make sure that everything's in time and there are no, you might get a really good take of a guitar solo or something like that, but there's just one note that wasn't hit strongly and it kind of buzzes a little bit on the fret or something like that. And so you go to your second take of it and you make sure that you can get that one, because sometimes you just don't have the luxury of going over it until you get it right. You just don't have the time, or sometimes you're working with people who just, they can't quite nail it every time. And whether they haven't put the practice in or they've written a part that's maybe a little bit too difficult for them. So you go through and you comp the parts. If you got 3 takes and you take, okay, this is good from this one and this is good from this one and this is good from this one. You put them together, you fade them so that there's no pops and clicks and glitches and that sort of stuff, and you listen through. And then you render them into one file, much the same as, like you would do with a cutting film together sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you would always do that before you go to the mixing phase. And then once you're in the mixing phase, that's, pulling sound, that's EQing weird frequencies out and boosting nice frequencies and, using compression and reverb and delay and saturation, all that sort of stuff. And mastering, once you finish your mixing phase, is you send it off to basically just like the final sheen and getting the volume up to commercial standards, so that it's ready to be sent off to places like Spotify and Apple Music and all that sort of stuff. So that's the final one where, and it's always good to get someone else to, the general rule is don't master your own music, so that you get someone else's ears hearing things. So
More
when you've mixed
objective.
it, when you mix it, you get used to hearing what's in there. And also, if Eric mixes something here and I take it back to my bedroom studio, which is in an abomination of a room sound wise, but if I listen to it, I've got speakers that are much more bass heavy, and like these headphones are completely different to Eric's, and like my room just sounds completely different. And so, but my ears are different as well. So I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to hear frequencies, and maybe he's just been listening to it and he's gotten used to hearing heavy compression on the drums, whereas I listen to it and I go, that's kind of a bit nasty. And not that you can do much about the heavy compression once you're in the mastering phase, but if I can hear weird frequencies or there's just not enough top end or whatever, you can kind of fiddle with that and then bring the overall volume up. And that's basically the process. You track, you edit, you mix, you master, and that's
Awesome.
the thing.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's a good
Very
breakdown.
good explanation. Yeah.
Thank you. I prepared that earlier.
That was all written on your hand.
Yeah. Love that.
It's a big hand. You guys were just alluding to like the co-producing kind of factor before, where like Eric might mix something up here and like bounces it off to you and you have a look at home. Do you guys have that process where like, all right, this is what Eric is going to send off to you. You're going to fix up the bits that you feel need to be fixed up and you bounce it back? Like, is it just a bunch of cross editing like that until you get the right product?
I don't think we've really done something like that just yet.
I feel like we're still figuring out the process for that.
I mean, like I'm still learning how to use Pro Tools. Before I used Pro Tools, I used Logic, and before I used Logic, I used Pro Tools very briefly. And before that, I used GarageBand. So I know how to drive it, but I'm still trying to figure out how to actually get things going. So I'm glad that I brought Jarod on, because not only, could Jarod show me how to actually use Pro Tools, but I switched over specifically because it's an industry standard thing.
Yeah.
Whatever. But it's easy because we can share sessions going forward. So if I need to track something and I need to bounce it off to him to mix, I can leave notes in the session and I can say, hey, look for this frequency, cut this, or listen to this weak kick drum here. You might need to copy and paste over. Yeah. So there's certain ways that you do that. And we're still kind of figuring out co-producing as of like mixing. So we're going to get together Friday and spend all day doing Sleeping Giant stuff. So we're going to sit there together. We're going to listen to it together. He's going to edit this. I'm going to edit this, that, and that. And we're going to figure out, okay, what works, what doesn't.
Yep.
It's like there is really no set way of doing it. You just do it. And if it sounds good, it sounds good.
Well, I suppose it's your first project together, really, isn't it?
Well, that's it.
So you're only going to learn.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, we've hit with a few projects simultaneously. So it's been pretty crazy, but I don't know how Eric would have coped without having a second set of hands with the amount of work that kind of came at once.
Insane.
And so that's also kind of hindered figuring out how to co-produce stuff, because there's been a lot of like, I'm at the studio tracking this, I just need you to edit that so that it's ready to go for the session tomorrow.
Sharing the workload.
Yeah. But there's, at the moment still, we've just been figuring out getting our like plugins to match and that sort of stuff. Eric's been getting stuff that I use a lot, and I'm we're looking at other bundles and that sort of stuff that we can get together that'll really help just kind of smooth things out. There's a few things at the moment where, for a project recently for this girl, I had all these synthesizers and stuff in the song that I was producing for her, and I had to go and like commit all the tracks before actually bringing them in here, because Eric didn't have the actual plugins. And so it's fine and it's workable, but it's
not
I
ideal.
guess that's just another thing that we're just kind of working through, like what is actually necessary, because it's all money.
Of course.
It's what is necessary for us to buy.
It's
and then
not
once
cheap
we've
too.
got that.
No, it's not cheap. The bundle that we're looking at now is from a company called Sound Toys, and they have a really good set of plugins that you can use.
I've seen that recently, actually.
Really, really good. So like there's a plugin that Jarod uses a lot specifically that would be really good on drums and whatever else. And it just sounds fantastic, but there's a $500 price tag separating us from that. But like, it's something that I feel I need to get, so that way we can just boom, boom, boom right next to each other without, without anything lacking. I'd rather us have the same tools. That way we can get similar results.
100%. And that's another thing with like using the same DAW program. You can, no doubt, I'm not exactly sure what they would call it, but whether it's a project file or something, sending things from one computer to another, piece of cake, as opposed to different
literally
DAWs.
called a project file. There's a whole section in Pro Tools for cloud. What do they call it?
Cloud integration or something?
No, it's cloud collaboration.
Yes, that's it.
You got to go with the alliteration.
Right.
Go with the alliteration.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Yeah.
That's
So you
the
more or
rule of
less
cloud.
put all your plugins in the cloud, and then
you
each
just put the
computer can
session
access.
in the cloud, and then the person on whatever their thing is, they can access that session and make changes, and you can also kind of roll back if you don't like the changes. You can roll back to your thing. So we haven't got that sorted yet. We're actually running different versions of Pro Tools. So I've got to get the newer version. It's another thing but once we've kind of leveled the playing field in that regard, it'll be much easier for us to kind of figure out how to produce and mix and edit, and how to kind of share that workload.
Because ideally, I would love for one person to track the session, another person to mix it, and then that first person master it or whatever.
Yeah.
So only one person really needs to be here at one time.
Alternate, yeah.
Because it's like all of a sudden, I was like, hey, Jarod, do you want to come in and help out and work with me? And that's all good. But now we have 3 albums with a 4th one coming at the end of the month. And it's like, I've never done an album before in that context, and now we're being slammed by 4 of them at the same time. And there's like deadlines approaching, but it's like things are just so time intensive. Like this Sleeping Giant thing, this is the thing that's been taking up a majority of our time.
2 hours on a kick drum, right?
I mean, honestly, it took 50 hours to track the album. Double that for editing, really, and then triple that for mixing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a product that represents us, the studio, and then the musicians as well. So it needs to be taken seriously. That's another thing people don't realize when it comes to recording specifically is how much time it takes to record something and have it sound good. Yeah. And how much time preparation needs to go in positioning microphones before you hit the record button. You should be setting your mics up as if you're going to mix them.
So the session that we've got coming up later this month, they've actually booked 2 days, 1 day for tracking. They're tracking live in the room together, but the first day is just an entire day for us to set up and pull sounds and get mics placed in the right spot.
That's the right way to do it.
Yeah, and so that will mean there's no kind of pressure on us to go, I've got to get a good guitar tone like really quickly, and they're sitting there going, I'm not happy with it. It's like, no, we can take as long as we need within that day, and just adjust as needed, can record a bunch of scratch tracks, and then just kind of adjust the microphones as needed. And the next day we just got to hit record, and they do their thing, and that's it.
Yeah.
Makes it easier.
No doubt for the musicians, a lot more comfortable for them also. They're getting used to the environment.
Absolutely.
You get to gel with the guys, and then lay it out the next day.
That's it.
But it takes a lot of preparation time to get there.
It does.
Yeah.
And not everyone has the time or the money to be able to pay for that extra
that's the thing.
Time allotment.
But it makes a difference. I mean, if this is one thing is people have always said to me, I just want to record a song. How much does it cost? It's like, how long is a piece of string?
Yeah.
How much time are you prepared to do it?
What do you want?
I can set up drum mics in a way that I know sounds good for what I do, and I can just cheat and throw samples on them, and it's going to be it. And you're going to get what you pay for, which is like, not a lot. That was a car horn. But I mean, that's the thing is people just don't realize it takes time, and time is money. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have a lot of money, and that stops, the studio from upgrading in a way which we would like to as well, because I want to be focused on getting the bigger projects, albums, whatever, because they're ongoing. It's good money, so I can throw that money right back into investing gear. So I don't have to sit here and be like, when am I going to get the money for this bundle that Jarod and I want to use?
Yeah. On the flip side of that too, like I've always done recording at home with my brother. Like we used to record bands around Bendigo when we were in high school, and having done that, and then also we're in a band together, and we recorded and released an EP that was, it was an 8-track, and we
great 8-track
recorded. Thank you. We recorded that all at home, real drums and everything, and edited, mixed and mastered. It was mostly just done in my bedroom. And because we've learnt to work in those, honestly, just like sound-wise, they're just abominable environments. It means also that when you get people in that don't have the money to spend all that time, and I mean, I've been in that situation as well, going to an actual studio and going, I just don't have the money to pay you for all this. I have the money to track it with you and get you to do a quick mix and master, and that's it. And so I completely understand where people are coming from. But the good thing is, having done years of bedroom recordings and stuff, is when you come in here and you don't have a lot of time to get a good mix, or get, pull some really nice sounds, get some, try out different microphones, and just, different mic techniques. You can just go, you know what? I know that like what's this? This is an open back, is it? Yeah. So I used to have that cab, and I knew 100% exactly where to place an SM57 on that cone, whether it was on or off axis. I knew where to place it, and even to mic it in the back to get some ambience going. I just knew where I could do it, and I could get a workable sound with it. So when I come into a room that actually sounds much better, like this one, as opposed to my parents' living room for drums or just my bedroom for guitars, it is much easier to just kind of go, you know what, I know this works, so we'll just roll with that, and we'll just do our best to kind of EQ and put out the best product that we can for them.
That's it.
On their budget.
This is why a lot of people who have an interest in music end up gravitating towards recording anyway. I would literally say 2 in 5 people who play guitar or have a hobby band or something like that get a small little recording bundle and just figure it out. That's what I did. That's what you did, and you guys were part of that as well, like back in your Navy Blue days. So like, speak to that, because you did a couple recordings, and I did some very primitive mixing on that. I don't think I would be happy to show that now, but it was what it was. But speak to that, recording in a spare room and doing the best you could.
Well, we didn't really record in a spare room or anything like that. It was
it was a dedicated
little studio. It was like a double studded wall.
Yeah.
Shipping container thing, pretty much. And
it's fairly soundproof.
It was very soundproof
door and all that. It was pretty boxed in. Had all the, I'm not sure what you call these things.
Sound absorption units. Go with that. Sounds fancy.
It sounds like it needs an acronym. Sound absorption units.
SOUs?
SOU. I don't know. Anyway, the place we recorded, our drummer at the time, he basically took control of that. That was his
his domain.
His domain. It was at his place, and he was always interested in that from previous bands and doing the more bare bones recording setup there. So he just had that wealth of knowledge from previous bands, made it a lot easier for us. We, like Tyler and myself at least, never really had to get too in depth with that. And a lot of it was quite digital, actually. So just playing around with plugins, as was the style at the time, even with the amps and the amp models we had, very much emulated rigs, but ran by tubes, which was like a bit of a game changer for the time, especially with the more progressive metal tones. But yeah, we had a pretty easy workload with that. We just had to rock up and try to remember how to play the riffs.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing. I mean, I started with an Avid M-Box 2 Mini, 2-channel interface, and how I would mic drums is I would throw an SM57 pointing towards the snare drum about 2 feet away from the kit. Not fantastic, but not bad either. But I remember having a recording experience where I was just tracking demos with this band I was in, and this one guitar player tried to take over the session, and I remember getting so pissed off at him. I was like, "You literally let me do it, and I don't outburst at anybody. I mean, I wouldn't hurt a fly. I mean, unless I had to."
They can get quite vicious. Those flies.
There is a fly. There is a fly in this room right now.
Is there?
Yes, you will hear it buzzing, and I don't know. Must have got let in
just over the bike.
But that's the other thing that you will have to learn is, if you're paying for a producer engineer, you need to trust them with your music, which is why there's a certain process or a certain part of the mixing process that people should not even be considered to be in the room with. Because, for example, like if we're fine tuning a kick drum, somebody could sit there and say, "Oh, I don't like that," but it's like, you don't get it. You don't get it.
And the reason we had to spend so long on that kick drum was actually because the sample was good and it suited the song, but it was out of tune with the song. And so we had to actually sit there and we had to tune it, which then changed because initially when we put the samples on and blended them, I was like, great, they sound good. We'll just slap them on and we'll come back and we'll actually, fine tune it later. And then we found out it's like they're out of tune with the song, which a lot of people don't think about drum tuning. but if it is out of tune with the song, it will sound okay. But when you hear drums that are actually in tune with the key or like the perfect fifth of the key, you like the drums, they just sit so harmoniously in the mix.
They do.
And so we had to sit there, and it was like, okay, so we've got to tune this, and then it was like, okay, so now that doesn't work with that snare, so we've got to tune the snare.
One
stuff,
variable
and then-
adjustment changes everything
Exactly.
else, right?
And so it took us a while, but the good thing is that because of the style of music it is too, where we can use an import mix function once we've kind of got the drum sounds, and so it won't be doing that for every
But that's the thing to think of. Like, for example, this particular drum, it resonates a lot more because it doesn't have a hole in the front of it, or there's no dampening. It just resonates. So when you kick it, it's like doom. Or I could pitch it down and it could be like doom.
It's kind of set.
I mean, it is what it is. So this is why you need to spend time setting up before you hit the record button to try and have as little variables or something that's going to throw you off. Never, ever, ever say, "Oh, I'll fix it in post."
Yeah.
If you're saying that, man, you just get ready for a big workload. And I've done that before. I'm guilty of it. You know what I mean?
Everyone is.
Specifically with vocals, tracking vocals for people.
Yeah.
I'll just tune them later. It's fine. But like I'm sitting there tuning vocals, and it's like, why did I do this? Why did I do this?
Yeah.
So recording, I mean, it takes a lot of time to do it well. So, but it's fun. It's fun. It's a fun thing. I love doing it.
It is.
I reckon the satisfaction of you like ticking something off the list could be like similar to like mowing your own lawn.
That's fantastic.
Just be like, just good job, man.
pretty much.
Good job.
It's challenging, but the payoff's there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
It is. And it's
But, I mean, you guys are doing full-fledged like stuff for other people. I was chuffed. I spent an hour on FL Studio today and made a loop.
I'm still chuffed when I do that. Like,
me too.
For real, man.
Like it's a nice feeling, but like you guys are like all the way up here with like doing stuff for other people, and I'm just getting into it for myself. I'm like, oh geez, I understand why like you guys put so much time into it.
Yeah, it's a black hole for time and money and all that sort of stuff. But it really is when you can get to the point and you can kind of go, I want to record a song, and you go, wait, I have the tools to do that. I have the skill set to do that, and I can at least get it to a decent listenable level for people. It's like, yeah, I'll just do it then. I'll just use my spare time on the weekends. You look at people like Cloud Kicker, for example, and it's just one dude in an apartment. He's not even in like a studio or anything. He's literally just in an apartment. He uses Superior Drummer. He uses just like amp sims and that sort of stuff. And he just started doing it on the weekends because he was like, I'm never going to make money in the music industry. So he got a day job. He works full time. He's married, lives in this apartment, and his music took off because he was just making really good music on the weekends.
It was good stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Is he still doing stuff?
There hasn't, after, I don't know, is it Woum? I don't know how to pronounce his last one, but it was strange and I didn't love it. And I keep checking back, but there's been no updates for ages. So.
Very different to his older stuff.
Yeah, I do. I must say that I favor the odd time signatures and the atmosphere and the EBO and all that sort of stuff he was using on like Beacons. It's
I think a lot of that comes back to some people have a bit more of just that innate perfectionism to them, and it's part of your personality, and you gotta own it, and you gotta challenge it, and it's just what makes you happy. Simple as that.
I mean,
it's like chemical release and all that science stuff.
It certainly is. I mean, since working with Jarod, he's much more like picky than I am. I mean, it almost makes me feel like kind of lazy in a way in which I've approached. I mean, but it's good. I mean, it's good because it gives me an opportunity to take a step back and realize, okay, maybe I'm not doing this the right way, or maybe not the right way, but like maybe I'm not doing it as good as I could.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really good to have somebody else, which is why I've kind of, stepped back and let Jarod engineer and, touch the EQ in a way different than I would.
Yeah.
It's been a very humbling and learning experience for me because it's like, okay, I want to get better. How do I do it? Watch somebody else. You know what I mean? How do you get better playing music? By playing with other people. You know what I mean?
Iron sharpens iron, man.
And that's the same exact way. So I'm only going to be better because of it. But that's the thing, is like, how much time are you allowed to put into it? How good am I? How well do I trust myself to make good sounds really quickly?
Let's talk about trust.
Yes.
You threw that word around a bit earlier. Brothers and sisters, let's talk about trust.
Testify.
Just the whole collaboration process. It probably is more of a thing in the music production side of things, like editing and mixing and mastering, as opposed to just like being in a band with a egotistical frontman who wants to play the riff and song this way. Trust is an important thing when collaborating because it puts the egos aside and you got to hear somebody's opinion out and then you can learn from it. I just want to ask you guys about what your take on that is with collaborating and
Talk about
having to trust people sometimes.
your production. The thing
Okay.
you're most.
Yeah, so I'm producing an album for this young girl at the moment, and she's brought in 8 fantastic songs. They're really, really great songs. They really are.
Great.
They're very bare bones. She's got the vocals and the melodies and the structures, and everything's laid out properly. But the guitar playing is very, just standard strumming of chords. And she's basically come in and said, I need, this is what I want it to sound like, albums reminiscent of specifically Taylor Swift's Red album. And that kind of blend of electronic and natural sort of stuff, which I was happy with because I am very familiar with that album. I really like that album. And so she's like, a cross between that and Lord's Melodrama, and then reference tracks for each song as well, for kind of the general vibe. And then on top of that, it's the 8 songs, and they all tell a story and they all have a different theme. So, the
That's
first
awesome.
couple are, about like finding something, finding this new kind of love, and it's all, fun and stuff. And as it goes
So
on,
the concept's all there.
Yeah,
She's done her homework. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Great.
it. And so I think the hard thing has been, so we started with one song. We started with the first track off the album, and it's probably the hardest of the songs, I think, to produce, because she's basically said to me, she's only got acoustic guitar chords, so I'm rewriting all the music. Like I'm putting in drums and bass and synths and keys and strings and guitars and backing vocals and changing melodies and structures and chords and like the whole thing. And so I've gone through and I spent quite a bit of time on the first song. We wanted to start there, and now it's her first time doing this, and obviously she's going to have an idea in her head of what she wants, and then I've got my own style, which is pretty distinct when I'm producing stuff. I have intervals that I favor. I really like chords with major seconds in them, and there's specific stuff that I like.
Your go-tos.
My go-tos, without even realizing it. We all have those things that kind of identify us. And so I started the production, and I had asked her this long list of questions about what style you want this in. Do you want it more electronic, more natural? Specifically for this song, what are you feeling for drums? Do you have ideas? If you do, what are they? Can you convey them to me? Sat down, I worked out new tempos for all the songs, because the scratch tracks were all acoustic, so they were a bit more laid back, and they need to be pushed a bit more if they're going to have drums and stuff in them. And so I did a lot of work on this song, and it's got real drums. It's got it's got like claps and sub kicks and stuff, and it's got like a side chain synth that's and
Awesome.
Piano and strings and all that sort of stuff. And I hadn't really got to touch her vocals, but it's using like 3 different bass synths to get the right sounds, and spent a lot of time working on just kind of getting the broad strokes in, getting the filter cutoffs right for bass in different sections of the song, and just kind of getting layers right to really convey my idea of what she wanted and of what the song should be. And the hard thing for her was, and it's not a criticism at all, because it's a hard thing for anyone, is that she was going, I want to hear the song. I want to hear the song. I want to hear, guys, can you show me the song? And we were like, well, we've got a meeting. We'll show you the song at the meeting. Because for me, and she doesn't live in Bendigo, so she had to travel to come to the meeting to hear the song. And so for me, as the producer for that, I was like, because it's her first time, because it's like I have a pretty good idea of what she wants, but we haven't been able to spend enough time together for me to really get this fully fleshed out and even go through ideas with her of what I have for the song. I needed to be sitting next to her the first time she was hearing it, and she didn't want to be sitting next to me the first time she was hearing it, because she was like, when she came in, I explained, I was like, I'm sorry we didn't send it to you, but the first time you hear each of these songs needs to be sitting with me because we don't have enough time to really, work on this together. I'm going home and I'm doing that stuff there, and I need to be able to do it without someone watching me like a hawk. But at the same time, it's not like we can spend a day going through songs and I can show you my ideas for them. And then, that helps me flesh it out and gives me more confidence in sending it to you.
Yeah.
And so I explained that, and she was like, that makes sense. Of course. She's like, I just don't want to be mean to you. If I don't like it, I don't want to come across really horrible. And I was like, no, like, this is my job. This is what you're paying me for. If you don't like it, then we go and we fix that, especially because it's the very first one, we're trying to figure out what you want.
So she listens to it.
She listened to it.
Yeah.
And
the first thing she said after it was like the longest 4.5 minutes of our lives. I'm sitting there in the corner and I'm like, I can't see her face.
Did she hate it?
Jared's looking at her face. Supposedly she was like doing this kind of
She was
like
just concentrating. It was just this concentrating face. And I was
So-
like, I'm getting nothing.
the song ends and I was like, I guarantee she's going to cry. She's going to be like, oh, thank you so much. This is exactly what I wanted. What did she say? Can we listen to that again? And I was like, oh no.
It turned out fine. Like, we listened to it again, and she was, and I was like, do you like it? Do you not like it? And she's like, no, I actually do. There's plenty of elements in this that are actually what I had in mind when I first wrote it, or you changed the guitar to a piano, which is how I first wrote the song. She said there are other elements of it that I don't like and I want to change, but that having that sort of trust, which I think is the ultimate sort of trust when it comes to music, is going, this song is my baby. She's about 20, I think. She's young, she's doing this for the first time, and she's come to some stranger as like, I'm giving you money to
She wants to
grow my baby up into a full song so that I can show the world. And I've got ideas in my head, but I can't necessarily convey them to you properly.
It's a language barrier.
And and so I'm sitting there doing the best I can, and so there's got to be trust both ways. That trusting that she's able to, the things she is communicating, that they're being communicated correctly, and that I'm not misinterpreting them. And there's got to be trust for her. So I need to be patient. I need to wait for him to give it to me. And so, of course, once I've kind of shown her the song the first time, I'm like, I'm more than happy to send you as many updates as you want on how the production's going. But for that first one, I need you here, because if you have this like foul look on your face, like, I don't like that, I need to see that in its raw form, because we don't have enough time to spend together otherwise. And so if I put something in that you hate, I need to see that you hate it. I need you to
earlier better, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to spend.
And I want broad strokes.
Yeah.
I don't want to send it to you the first time and get like a 10-page, essay back of changes. It's like, well, I'll just start from scratch. It's like, I just want broad things. It's like, the drums sound too electronic, or they sound too natural. I want them more electronic, or I would prefer a real bass in there rather than a bass synth. And, I don't like that you built this section up high when I want it to drop it down low. All just broad strokes like that. And once that's kind of, in, then it's like, cool, we can get to the kind of liner notes and that sort of thing. But so that's been a big exercise in trust for both parties. I think that's the ultimate one.
Yeah, it's very overwhelming.
Sure.
Very overwhelming. I mean, like, I've been on the other side where I only have X amount and I just need to go in and track it. I've never been the guy who's like, I'll pay you thousands of dollars to produce an album for me. And when you have somebody approach you for that, having never heard what you've done before, and when this girl approached me, I was only just considering bringing Jarod on. Knowing what I know now, I would have no way in hell been capable of what Jarod is doing, because I just don't have that eye for production the way he does.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why it's good to have two different people who are capable of different things. So when you're there in FL Studio making your loops, imagine doing that times 1,000 with a lot more pressure. And this is a paid client, but it almost makes me want to go back to that point where I'm just messing around playing loops
For sure.
because nothing else matters. You know what I mean? So
That's the thing. It's basically professionally messing around.
That's what it is.
Because it's like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a creative process.
It is.
And you've got stuff that's like when I, because I've written songs and I've produced for other people so many times, and I listen to so many different styles of music, and I've taught guitar and bass and drums for like a long time now. So it's like there are things that you pick up along the way that you can't necessarily bring to mind. Like right now, I'm like, well, I could tell you, but if you bring me a song right now, I would listen to it and I go, okay, the tempo needs to be upped by a few beats a minute. You know, I can hear this drum because I'm a drummer. I can hear this drum beat behind it, and because I'm a guitarist, I can hear that the guitar could, you know, come in with this. And that's the hard thing. It's
not an easy thing.
No.
Well, I've been thinking about like the trust in music in general recently, because like Eric and I play with Sean Orr, and we've been playing together, I think it's what, 8 or 10 songs for about a year now.
Yep.
And we had a like practice session the other day, and although Sean trusts us on stage to play the songs we already know, where we have to learn a new element of trust when we're writing together.
Yeah.
There's different levels of trust. Like Sean brought us a couple of awesome riffs, and I kept finding myself going,
Awesome.
oh,
Classic. Sorry, continue.
yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yes.
He
Eric missed it.
I did miss it. I'm sorry.
I was a bit slow myself.
and they were fantastic. But I found myself like a bit lost, because I need to trust his songwriting a lot more, and I need to trust in my abilities to follow and all that kind of stuff. So it's a very important tool in any creative person's arsenal is trust.
It's hard. Like,
It
especially
is very hard.
Like when we were jamming last week, he's like, "Okay, I want you to play this exact thing," and I'm like, "I get it, but just let Tyler be Tyler and let me be me." I mean, it's fine to say, try playing this. If it doesn't work, just mess around, or try this drum beat. And I have to kind of like, I don't want to do this. I want to do what I want to do. So how do I make best of both worlds to make it sound good and musical at the same time? It is an exercise in trust when you're playing music, because we were like Sean Orr's backing band. Now we are
a band.
And so you're writing together, and are you writing songs from scratch together? Or is he bringing
he brings riffs.
Yeah, he brings stuff.
So
in.
we just shape them. So I play a beat, Tyler will play this, and suggest chord changes. Like, okay, we need to break it up. So I need to break it up with a tempo change or a beat change from verse to chorus. So that way, if you're playing the same riff, it's still going to sound different.
Like
Yeah.
It's a lot of work doing stuff like that.
And it's fun. Like it's that iron sharpens iron. Like if you're encountering challenges in your creative endeavors, I think that means that you're on the right path. Like you're gonna be better at the end of it.
For sure.
There's something to grow from.
Absolutely.
Right there,
something good will be birthed of it eventually. It's just a hurdle in the way.
Process.
Yeah. But it's fun. I mean, like I wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun.
No.
I mean, like for as overwhelmed as I am now with all the workload and what little personal time I have, and even time for me to play music, I'm still having fun. I wouldn't do this if it wasn't fun. Believe me.
Yeah.
And plus, I can give a lot of other people good opportunities as well. Like, I have the opportunity to bring you on, and you guys are a part of this in some capacity because you're here.
I'm the Lad Studios mascot, mate.
Yeah, I mean, like you guys are here, and like if I weren't here and if I didn't have this, I feel like I'd be pretty lonely, doing my own things, still just kind of making loops and doing my own stuff in my own way. It's fun to bring people on. It's fun to have challenges and all that stuff.
It's nice to be a part of something too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. And this is a good platform.
Hosting the podcast, like I've already learned, like we're 10 episodes in, and I'm just like, number one, I'm just learning so much from all the guests and the open discussion. But like I've been doing a bit of the editing on the podcast lately,
and you've done really well.
So I've just been like studying Final Cut Pro on my days off, and like Logic Pro X, and just piecing things together. And then all of a sudden I can basically do content creation now.
Yeah.
And that just leads on to the next snowball.
Yeah.
So
In a
and more
digital
than anything,
age,
it's still fun, isn't it?
they're good
So,
skills to have.
Yes.
Really good skills to have. In general.
Definitely in this day and age, more than
I mean,
anything.
it's fun to kind of mess around with podcast videos and stuff, but you actually might find yourself in a career editing video for something or somebody. I mean,
at some point, even if it's just something small, like
look
who
what you
knows?
started with, something basic. I mean, this is just eyes to the sky kind of thing, but I like to look that way. I mean, why not? I never thought I'd have a recording studio.
No,
nobody does.
Yeah,
you just do it. And that's the fun part of it.
And look where you are now.
Yeah, and it all starts with
have a goal, let the universe take care of the details for you. Yeah, that's it, man.
Well, that's exactly it. So like starting with loops in FL Studio. I mean, that's fun.
Well, like just putting that together today, like it was like just a hip hop beat with some nice like tight snares and stuff. Jarod knows I like my snares tight.
Do be tight.
But I felt more inspired to write and create than I haven't more inspired than I have for a long time. So
Yeah.
It's probably just a different tool also. Like
it is completely different.
your primary is the guitar, you're now using a computer and different angles, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's its own instrument. That's the thing.
It really is.
That's the thing I've learned is like, you become like the fifth member of the band when you're recording with people, because the desk is literally an instrument and you are playing it and shaping it into something.
Yeah.
And I always tell people when they come in and record with me, I'm like, your idea of what your song sounds like is going to change. So you need to be prepared for that, because it's going to sound way different than you expected. Sometimes better, sometimes worse. I mean, that's just what it is. Yeah. But it also has to be very honest and transparent environment. If something sucks, I'm not going to tell somebody what they want to hear, because they're paying me. They're paying me to be honest.
Yeah.
I've had somebody come in, for example, the only thing I can think of, and I think I've said this before. Somebody was coming in and tracking a song with me. They wanted to play banjo on it, and I was like, I don't know about that. So they actually went in and did it. And I'm like, this sucks. Seriously, I'm not here to play around. It doesn't sound good.
You can't
Drop it.
play banjo in a death metal band. I told you this.
That's exactly it.
Have you heard I wrestled a bear once, or?
I used to love those guys.
Did you really? Did you?
I love those guys, but the sentiment still remains. You can't play banjo in a death metal band.
Okay, all right.
I beg to differ.
I wrestled a bear once.
So I mean, like with production, there's a vast world of things you can do and how you can be prepared. So thinking of production, are there albums or songs that you guys really like that you just appreciate for what they are?
I've been listening to something lately that's really struck a chord with me, so to speak. I just found myself listening to Devin Townsend project quite a bit recently. A lot of his
I just did the exact
This
same
happened
thing.
last time. That's all right. A lot of his earlier albums, it's all about the wall of sound. So just everything is massive. Everything's probably clipping. Everything is just 100% volume. But his latest album, a lot more different. It's actually like balanced completely differently, whether he got other people on board to do the mixing and mastering. I'm not too sure what the fine details there are, but it's almost a completely different band to listen to.
See, Devin's kind of an outlier because he records and does everything himself in his own studio. And each album he's just like, all right, I'm going to tackle this genre now because I'm bipolar. So it's blues this album, and then just like a heavy metal symphony the next one, and then I'm going to do Wall of Sound again. And like he's one of my favorite musicians on the planet. But
just going through his his catalog, just my driving around music this week, it's very intense driving music. I dare say, especially when you're going 40 down the main roads here now and then to go.
This is
but yeah,
you
just
do,
like
you do 40 in town.
in the selected speed zones, mate.
Yeah.
You know it.
I still do 80.
Cole's car park.
But yeah, basically, like it was quite shocking to hear that. Like, I think it's The Transcendence is the name of the album. But yeah, it's like, oh, this sounds completely different to his last 15 years of work.
Yeah.
It just jumped out at me. So
Yeah.
that's what I'd say production wise that shocked me a bit lately.
It's amazing how technology changes with all that kind of stuff too. Like, I mean, you go back, 10 years ago to when music started to be recorded. It was a lot of analog amps and all that kind of stuff, miking them up properly. And like now you've got programs that do all that kind of stuff.
Well, the interesting question is I always ask myself is like, okay, I understand that when music was first recorded, it was recorded to wax. I get that. And then the more you evolved, it became more analog. And now it's in a very digital fashion in which digital is trying to emulate analog because it wants that warm sound. But my question is why wasn't something that was recorded in the 70s sound as good as it sounds now using the same mics and the same desk? I always listen to that, or listen to, for example, like one of my favorite bands, Yes.
Yes.
Great bands, great albums. And you listen to it and it's like, okay, this sounds fantastic. But then there's a guy, Stephen Wilson from Porcupine Tree.
Yeah.
He does remixing, and he remixed some Yes albums recently. And it's like, these sound so much better. Why? What's the difference? Is it all the plugins and all the gear?
The producer.
maybe.
And like taste changes over time. I mean, like you look back at the Beatles and you listen to some of their songs and you've got the drums panned hard left or hard right. I can't remember which one it is.
Weird.
And like some people like that. I think it's garbage, to be
I
honest.
agree.
And I'm glad that music production moved away from that for the most part. Although I was surprised unpleasantly the other day when I went to listen to Songs for the Dead by Queens of the Stone Age and found that they have the same thing. But sounds change over time, and it's I mean, if you listen to music in general or if you even took a tour of like pop music, disregarding the change in style, if you listen to the actual sound of it, and you go back to the Beatles, and then you go from there, you go 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties, and now whatever we're in now. I mean, you've got the loudness war that was going on, and so things were sounding more compressed and that sort of stuff. But as the digital world kind of came in, and you started getting things like time stretching audio, being able to actually edit audio much easier, and much stricter to the grid. So it in turn became more easy for people to do that. It became more accessible to people. And so you've got all these bedroom musicians who start putting stuff out. And there's, which one is it? One of those SoundCloud rappers recently. And I feel like it was Extentation.
Rest in peace.
That's how you say his name.
I've never said it out loud before. I'm hoping
Nobody's
that's how
ever
you say
game
it.
enough. It's like XXX.
I'm not ashamed.
tentacles.
Tenascian.
I've never listened
I think you're
really
up
to his music, but like he has this overcompressed, distorted sound on his things. And I remember a producer actually said, no, he specifically asked for that. That's the sound that he wants.
Yeah.
And so he's got this sound which by all technical rules is wrong. He's getting like digital distortion, which sounds awful. And, he's over compressing stuff.
That glitchy.
But
yeah.
But people have taken to it. And so it's like, well, other SoundCloud rappers and other people producing music have started.
GoPro's dead.
Yep.
Have started jumping onto that bandwagon.
What is it doing?
And so it's like, well, is that something we're going to hear more of? I don't see it ever coming out in any productions by like Max Martin or anything for Katy Perry or any kind of big pop names. But could that be something we see? Because you listen to metal bands, you listen to bands that are on sometimes like Rise Records and that sort of stuff, and it's like the kick drums, like the drums in general, are so isolated. It's like they cut everything but that single kick drum out, so you've got no bleed, and same with the snare, and it sounds so isolated, like it was all recorded separately, and then they sample it. There's no, sometimes they're just recording it with triggers, and there's no actual real sound being blended in there, and you've still got a production that sits at what's it like minus 14 LUFS or whatever for Spotify now, and so you've still got a production that's sitting at the same volume level, and it's still mixed based on same basic principles and that sort of stuff. And it sounds completely different to like August Burns Red's Messengers, which came out, was it like
2007?
10 years ago, and they just did the remix. And it's the same files, and it sounds different because the sound that we are used to, every time someone mixes something, it's a little bit different. And as you listen to the big guys who produce, like Andrew Sheps and Dave Pensato and Chris Lord, never know how to say his last name. Algae. Is it Algae or is it?
I say Chris Lord Algae.
Yeah.
Blue-green algae.
But you listen to those guys and they're still learning as well. It's
Yeah.
never something that you're perfect at. And every session is different. You've got different problems. You've got different sounds, different artists, different microphones, different rooms. Everything is different. And so they're always perfecting their craft, and it'll never be perfect. They're just always on that journey.
But what's the takeaway though? There's no right way to do it. As long as
if
it sounds good,
you do it.
The endless pursuit of tone.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Yeah.
It's very difficult, and it's actually kind of eye opening or ear opening rather.
Both.
For like you said, August Burns Red, they remixed that album. I haven't heard it yet.
It's great. It's so
But I can
punchy.
imagine. Yeah.
And it's
Wait, they
just
remixed it. When did they do that?
for the 10th anniversary. It's up on Spotify and stuff.
I have not
It's,
heard that.
it's great because like I was a huge fan of that original one that like
Great
taught
album.
me how to play drums. And listening to it now, it's like, you know, you've still got that psh, psh in every breakdown. You're gonna have fun compressing that.
Yep.
But you've still got that, but like the kicks and everything are more punchy because it's moved away from a more natural kit sound to this big, fat, beefy
Triggered, just
you know, like it's
Get good drums.
It's big, and they've just kind of taken, I guess, like the natural raw sound of the drums has disappeared more, and especially when you've got like electronic music kind of started coming. You look at the 80s, and you've got every snare is, and it's like got that clap sound in it.
808
And then-
sort of.
Yeah. And so it's like, and so it feels like a new thing comes out and people go, oh, look at this. And so you listen to any music in the 80s and it's all electronic drums.
That's it.
And then in the 90s, they all went, okay, let's balance ourselves back out a little bit. And they started kind of blending the two and experimenting. And so then that creates a new sound. And then you've got, you know, people messing around with FM synthesis and wavetable synths and that sort of stuff. And it's all different sounds.
Gated reverb, the sound of the 80s.
Gated reverb.
That's it.
Certain trends that pop up every now and then.
Yeah.
It's and different genres tend to be, some are more experimental and more modern,
Yeah.
and then that turns into the mainstream 10, 15 years down the track.
Yeah.
So
That's when
strange.
people say,
There's a
oh, they're
sequence
ahead of
for
their
it all.
time.
Yeah.
That's kind of where that
Exactly.
expression comes
Like
from.
the 80s style, I always, if I'm going to listen to Spotify, I'll sit there and listen to like 80s synthwave, but not like stuff from the 80s. Like actual like synth wave that's inspired by the 80s,
Yeah.
using those same synth
Yep.
sounds, the 808, you know, kicks and whatever. And it's fantastic. This modern genre from 30, 40 years ago, nearly 40, wow, can you believe that? Is now becoming its own subgenre that people are listening to as its own thing in its own right.
100%.
Fantastic. Fascinating.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yes.
Now I have one more question from you pros, because I'm just getting into the whole DAW and like plug-in game at the moment.
Yep.
I've got a program called Contact at
Yep.
the moment. I don't know how that links into your DAW. Like, why does that exist, and why do I need it?
Contact is a host for other plugins.
Yeah.
Or for other virtual I use Contact like every session.
Yeah.
So do you just have the free version of Contact? Do you have like the paid version of
Paid,
Contact?
yeah.
Paid. So you would have instruments in there. You would have like the Gentleman and Unicorder and stuff. So basically you just insert it on I can't speak to FL, but Pro Tools, I create an instrument track. I
Yeah.
throw it on the instrument track and then I open it. And then that's basically just a host that shows me different, because you can you can use it as like a rack and you can have different ones going and you can send different MIDI channels into different ones, like different, so you got mixers and you do your routing. So yeah, it basically is just like a virtual rack for instruments.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
It's really cool.
I just saw like one of my favorite plugins is Get Good Drums, like
Yep.
the Periphery
Yep.
guys. Like it just sounds so good and effortless,
Yes, it does.
and it's got that when you program drums and stuff, it sounds like it's done by a robot, but with this, it's got that kind of
yeah.
human feel to
Yep.
it.
Authentic
Yeah.
sort of feel.
Yeah, and I like that. Like it's just the hits might be like a couple milliseconds off.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's just a
got
bit
the
more
human
natural.
eyes in it.
Yeah. And I like that kind of thing. So and that's through Contact, isn't it? Like I can
Maybe
get that
I actually
from-
haven't used it.
Oh, haven't you?
I've listened to it and looked at it a lot, but I just haven't actually.
I
got
think
it
you
for
can
myself,
you
so.
can use it in Contact. I think you can also get the samples like as wave files
Oh,
to use
right.
like in Slate Trigger.
Oh, cool.
But that's the thing is like programming drums. Like you can program them to sound robotic if you just want a 4 on the floor kind of thing for EDM.
Yeah.
Or you can program a rock beat. But the key to making program drums sound real is human error, accounting for human error.
Yeah.
Putting things before the beat. And that makes it sound real.
Yeah.
It's an inconsistency that you can't replicate.
It's also like necessary because when you've got like EDM stuff,
Our camera shut off. Let me see.
See what's up there.
Let me.
Hey, welcome back to the.
What do they call that though? When you edit things to like take it a bit off. There's a word
Humanize?
for it, isn't it?
yeah, usually it's like humanizing.
I was
but
thinking of something
there's-
else, but
There's
that's all right.
quantize.
Quantizing. Yes.
That's when you put it to to the grid.
Right.
Yeah.
Making it
but
robotic.
There's different levels of quantization as well. Usually the quantization function, you've got like a percentage that you can
Play
set it to like
with.
85%. So it's not quite perfect.
Mm.
Yeah, because drummer's never perfect. I remember my brother pointing it out to me on a Paramore album, and I was like, whoa, like this kick's out of time. And he's like, yeah, because it's a human thing. You got to leave it in there. And I was like, I'd never noticed it before. I was like, wow, it was eye-opening.
There you go.
Yeah, on EDM stuff, like, or any electronic music, if you have the kick and the snare hitting at exactly the same time, you lose some of the punch. And so if you've got them both on exactly the same thing, often they, like, it's a normal technique to kind of shift it by like a millisecond, or, however many samples, just so slightly, so that it's actually, you're right zoomed in, and they're
So you get the
side
best
by
of
side.
both.
Yeah, so you're getting the punch from both of them, and because it can do it not just with the drums within themselves, but it can extend to like bass or synths, whatever. If they're like if you draw everything in with MIDI and everything is hitting right at exactly the same time all the time, you're going to have some of the punch sucked out of it. It's just going to happen.
For sure.
So actually kind of moving it to the side a little bit, giving it its own space to breathe, even if it's like half a millisecond or whatever, it actually just opens it up, gives it that punch back in. It's really,
There's so many different ways that you can do it when it comes to producing music. There's
Yeah.
so many different variables. And I think that the big takeaway from this particular podcast is there's no right way to do it. As long as it sounds good. Take your time and prepare before you do it. Sounds good. Hey, man, nothing wrong with that. We'll
Keep
have
exploring
to,
new ways. Yeah.
I mean, we'll have to consider things like, going forward for recording is like, does this person want this particular sound? Even though I don't like it, that's what they want. So is the customer always right? That's the.
Is there an element of compromise in this kind of thing, or is it like it's either that or this?
There is compromise. There is room for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like if something is
back to
going
that whole
to
trust
if
thing.
something is going to sound dramatically bad, I have to say it just is not working.
When it goes from being subjective to objective is when you need to step in, because there are in anyone that I've ever recorded, there are things that I don't like that I would like. It's like I would have written it differently, and I'm sure everyone in the room who didn't write it would be going, well, I would have gone to a different chord here, or I would have had the song faster or slower or whatever. But it's when it goes, okay, no, that actually is just bad. It is just bad. It just does not work.
Yeah.
That, and sometimes it's just people just don't have the experience to know. Like, you've got a drummer playing a beat and it's like, you know what, this song drags because you're just going, you actually need to do like a disco beat so that there's something pushing the song. It just sounds wrong. There's something missing, and it's just something that small. But it also depends. Are they paying you to be a producer, or are they just paying you to track it?
Yeah.
Because if they're just paying you to track it, they don't want you up in their business.
Know your limits.
Yeah.
Know your limits. That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah. So there's sometimes when I will suggest things, and I'm like, I think this will make your song better. But if they're not paying me to be a producer, I'm not going to fight them on it. If they say, no, I don't want to do that, I'm like, that's fine, whatever. Let's move on. Track
Like
it and keep going.
you suggested drum fills, when working with Sleeping Giant.
Yep.
We recently tracked an album where you played drums, and I suggested drum fills, something maybe different than you would do, but like I think it sounds good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
it worked.
so many different things, and it comes down to how you're writing the songs, how you're whatever. So, variables. If it sounds good, it sounds good,
As long as it fits, right?
and if it's fun, it's fun. Keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I believe that's it for this program. Our main camera has died, so I've switched over to my iPhone.
That's
X.
it.
We're going to have to do like a technical difficulties thing. It's just my face.
Yeah, with like a boop, boop, doo, doo,
Yeah.
boop, boop,
Like elevator music. Yeah.
I took a candid
We'll just
photo.
isolate that and put it
Yeah,
over if you
exactly.
want.
Yeah.
I'll use that track.
Well, I guess that's it.
That's a
Yeah.
good.
All right,
Yeah, that's
double
a wrap.
digits. The 10 episode.
Happy birthday, boys.
Boom.
Jared, thanks for coming on. Thanks for
Yeah, thanks for
dedicating
having me.
another evening of your life spending here.
That's fine.
But hey,
It's a
No better
Informative.
songs,
I've learned a lot.
There's food near here, so I'm happy.
there's food, yes, except for Schnitz, which hung up on me yesterday. Which
That's
really,
true.
I'm really
That's
upset
true.
about.
When
Is that because you
messaged me
keep
that I
bringing
was
it like
getting
a
my
second
food
before
and-
they close? Or?
Well, I called. It was like they closed at 8:45 last night, and we wrapped last night at like 8:15, and I was like, okay, we have time. I'll call them. I called them like, hey, is it too late to order anything? And then just the line got disconnected. I'm like,
Actually, are you with Telstra?
Yes.
Yeah, so
The Telstra lines.
apparently because they're upgrading towers around Bendigo, that's happening to people.
I've been cut off from 3 separate phone calls, 1 today, 2 yesterday. So it's
Yeah.
happening.
My coworker called and was on hold for like 40 minutes with someone they answered and the line died.
Oh no,
So,
that's crazy.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's classic.
That's terrible.
Anyway,
Well, whatever. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. I don't know if anybody actually watches this far, other than my mother. My mother watches everything.
Actually, I saw a comment on the last episode on YouTube. It was
Yeah.
like, I'm friends with Eric's mom. I watch too.
Do you? That's funny. That's
well, hello to Eric's
Hello,
mum's
Eric's
friend.
mum's friend.
that's she works at the Dollar Tree in Central Square.
What's that?
It's like the reject shop, but everything's $1.
Cool.
There's the fly.
There's the
There a
fly.
tree? There is the that was loud.
But yeah, well, hey, we have an international audience. We're
Not many other podcasts can say that.
We
not
also
mate.
have multinational cast, so
Yeah,
Yes.
3 Aussies and a Canadian man.
Yeah, and a Dutch man,
Yes,
a big Dutch
That's
Ted,
true.
and a fly.
and a fly.
Well, whatever. We'll cut it there.